Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight in the Yukon, where RCMP say they've opened a criminal investigation into the explosion of a house in Whitehorse this week. The explosion killed David Gould, who lived nearby, and sent the homeowner to hospital. It reduced the house to rubble and damaged more than a dozen homes in the area. What caused the blast isn't known yet. The Yukon RCMP's Major Crimes Unit continues to investigate. They want anyone with information to call police if they haven't done so yet. Police say they do not intend to release further information about the investigation. A bail hearing for an ex-priest facing 8 counts of historical sexual assault will be held in Iqaluit next week. 76-year-old Eric DeJager has been in custody since June of this year. He appeared in an Iqaluit courtroom briefly yesterday and told a justice of the peace that he does not have a lawyer. Detail around DeJager's bail application are covered by a publication ban. Nunavut Legal Aid has also denied DeJager's application for counsel. DeJager was convicted in 2015 of 32 counts of sexually abusing children in Iqaluit. His bail hearing on these current charges is scheduled for November 22nd. The firm that's managing the sale of Minto Mine in the Yukon wants more money to finish the job. That's according to court documents recently filed by PricewaterhouseCoopers. Virginie Ann has that story.
This is the latest in the Minto Mine saga. We recall the mine's owners abandoned it over the summer. That's when PricewaterhouseCoopers became responsible for its affairs, including selling the property. The firm had initially borrowed $500,000 from a company that provides loans. Now the firm's report reveals that it needs more money to carry out the sale, as much as $500,000. That's what the receiver wants the Yukon court to sign off on. And the reasons for wanting more money vary. The report states that managing the sale is complex. That's because of the remote location of the mine and considering the interests of stakeholders like Yukon government and the Selkirk First Nation on whose land the mine sits. The report states the borrowed money will be repaid once the mine is sold or through the liquidation of assets. But when could that be? The report states 8 parties seem serious about buying the mine. The firm hopes to secure a deal by the end of March. Virginie Ann, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Yukon RCMP say the impacts of organized crime are hitting the whole territory. The police recently posted online asking Yukoners to learn more about what organized crime looks like in their communities. Officers say large quantities of cocaine, fentanyl, and other opiates are being sold in Whitehorse and elsewhere. And those tied to drug trafficking are also illegally possessing many types of firearms.
I would say the amount of illicit gun seizures that we've had over the last 2 years has been alarming. Whether it be us, making a traffic stop for one driving activity or something suspicious and being able to stop that vehicle. And, I don't want to use the word stumbling into, but doing some good police work and seizing illicit firearms. Some of those firearms, the firepower would blow your hair back. So that is the most alarming thing.
So how should Yukoners be responding? Ellis says it could help for people to guide kids and teens towards extracurricular activities and educate them about how dangerous a life of crime can be. Right now, Canada is facing an opioid crisis, and for the past several years, it's been hitting Yukoners hard. The toxic drug supply in the territory caused 18 deaths so far this year, according to the Yukon's chief coroner. Close to 90% of those were opioid-related. One approach to help tackle this problem is a safe supply of drugs. Some people in British Columbia, also devastated by opioid-related deaths, have been using this approach, both legally and illegally. Ian Hannah-Mansing takes a look at what's being done right now in BC and meets those trying to reclaim control over their lives.
4 times a day, 7 days a week, Dennis Pelzer comes to this health clinic on Vancouver's downtown east side. He says it saved his life. If those programs didn't exist, where would you get your drugs?
right off the street.
Like right out there?
Yeah.
How many times do you think you OD'd?
I was ODing like almost every time I used. It didn't matter how much I used, I went down.
This is called the SAFER program, the first of its kind in North America. About 100 patients come here to get this, fentanyl, prescribed by a doctor, prepared by a pharmacist. That's why it's considered safer than what's on sale on the streets just outside of here. Could you ever have imagined you'd be coming in here and getting prescription fentanyl?
No, no.
Like a doctor prescribes it, you get it, it's clean, and you get to use it here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, whew, wow, all right, sign me up. After we get it in the cooker, we throw the water in, and then these are tourniquets.
Even in a province known for bold innovations to reduce drug deaths, fentanyl, distributed by a government-funded clinic, is a big step. Dr. Christy Sutherland launched the program.
Well, I never thought I would be doing this. Like, I also agree, it's quite bizarre. I'm a family doctor, I should be doing pap tests and working on people's hypertension, but I landed in this community and this is the services that they need, so this is what I created as a family doctor. For me, the way I look at it is that drugs exist and society also exists. And what is the relationship between drugs and society? Right now, we have the worst relationship possible. Organized crime controls the supply chain, they control the dose, they control the price, and they are unregulated. So if you were to sit down and set up the worst system possible to make it racist and violent and kill people, this is the system you would create.
The drug death crisis in British Columbia is so acute, there's really not much controversy about a government-funded clinic distributing fentanyl. But here's the contentious part, and lives hang in the balance. How can the province quickly expand the number of people who get so-called safer tested drugs? And consider these two numbers. Currently, about 5,000 British Columbians get drugs from some sort of government-supervised program. It could be fentanyl or an opioid replacement drug. But according to a coroner's report, 225,000 people in this province are at risk of injury or death because they're getting their drugs on the street. That risk extends far beyond the downtown east side, and the question remains, how far should access to safer supply extend? You're looking at what was the distribution center for the Drug Users Liberation Front, or DULF.
So for our heroin, we always use red bags, and the meth is in green bags, and the cocaine is in clear bags.
It is an activist group pushing for change. And back in September, co-founder Jeremy Calicum invited us to watch him package their version of a safer supply with drugs they obtained illegally.
Yeah, so this is North America's first cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine compassion club.
Though not supervised by medical staff, the drugs here were tested at a university. Carefully packaged with detailed labels from the precise contents to a warning.
Okay, that's that time. $33.
Yeah. 7, and we're good to go.
They were sold to club members at cost. Funding from the provincial government paid for the testing.
Half gram of tested, clean, no cut, but it's also highly addictive and dangerous to people who don't use it. Right? So.
DULF says no one has died using their drugs.
This kind of program, if it were to expand, what would the result be? What would the net change be?
Obviously, there'd be less deaths, there'd be less overdoses, there'd be less of attacks on our healthcare system, less of attacks on policing. It'd also be a lot of money taken away from organized crime, because these are drugs that organized crime would otherwise be selling to these people at inflated prices. You know, what we're doing right now is we still are buying it from the black market and then taking away a margin of those profits by selling it for a much lower price. But if we could get those drugs from a pharmaceutical company, which is really no problem, like chemists can make this stuff up in no time at all. So you have the people's names here, right? Like Airbnb, Canada Goodies.
This is where DULF got its drugs, traveling through the dark web to find suppliers. As Calicum said, they bought in bulk on the black market from Canadian sellers, the packages mailed to them. Buying drugs on the dark web may have been a step too far. After almost a year in operation, the Vancouver police swooped in and shut DULF down. The provincial government withdrew its funding, and the members of the Compassion Club presumably left to buy their drugs on the street. Don't save lives! DULF may not have the backing of the provincial government, but it does have support in the community. Keep in mind, many of the bold steps taken in the downtown east side have been led by activists, from needle exchanges to supervised injection sites.
If people don't have access, then they're just going to die in the streets.
And just as Dulf was being shut down, a panel of 21 experts issued this report for the coroner. The bottom line, with 6 people dying every day in BC from toxic drugs in September, it said access to a safer supply must be expanded quickly, even without a doctor's supervision. The panel said our urgent attention must be on creating access to alternatives to the unregulated drug supply for people who use drugs. But before the recommendations were even announced, the provincial government said it would not support providing drugs without a prescription.
First question today.
At the news conference about the panel's recommendations, BC's chief coroner Lisa Lapointe was asked about the decision to shut down Dulf, which police say was trafficking drugs.
I can't speak specifically to those to that action, but I suppose I would say that if you see somebody in a burning house, you feel somewhat justified to smash a window. And this crisis is massive. 225,000 people are still at risk of death every day.
One capsule each time?
Yeah.
And then you go over to one of these tables?
Yeah.
Dennis Pelzer is one of the fortunate ones in a medically supervised program with access to a safer supply and plans he couldn't have imagined without it. A stable life, and soon he hopes a job. You know, there's some people who hear about this program and they say it's wrong for doctors to prescribe fentanyl. It just feels wrong to them. What would you say to people who say that?
They don't know what it's like to be addicted to fentanyl. It's such a hard thing to explain to someone that doesn't do drugs. Once you get hooked on it, it's scary, you know, like you have no choice but to seek out this drug.
With snow on the ground, the danger of wildfires is behind us for this year. Now experts and officials are already looking forward to next year. Tens of thousands of people across Canada were forced to flee their homes this past wildfire season, including most residents of the NWT. Climate researchers say we shouldn't necessarily be thinking that the summer of 2023 was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Julia Wong looks at what experts are saying about how evacuation plans can be improved.
Packed highways, smoke and flames, and feelings of uncertainty. Familiar scenes for Charlie Kessler, who fled Drayton Valley in May because of wildfire, something that still sticks with him.
It was really difficult because there was so much traffic. It was scary not knowing what was going to happen.
This chaos was the reality for tens of thousands of people as Canada faced its worst wildfire season in a century. Now, there's research to try and make evacuation smoother. This professor is analyzing the decisions people make.
Some of those decisions are fairly clear, such as will I evacuate or will I stay? What mode of transportation would they use? Where would they go? But there's also a number of questions on how they would perceive a hazard or perceive a wildfire.
This is kind of the main town center.
Another researcher is looking at how towns are vulnerable to fire. Together, they're finding ways communities can improve evacuation plans and modify infrastructure to get people to safety.
One of the things we've learned with climate change is that we really don't know what to expect. It's possible that any region of the country could experience extended drought, and we saw that in 2023. And when that happens, any fuel can burn.
Other experts are leaning on data on things such as terrain, temperature, and moisture to help with future firefights.
Then we come up with some sort of danger conditions, and then we mention that, okay, here are the locations, these are very high probability of getting fire, these are very low.
As for Kessler, he knows next wildfire season could be just as unpredictable, so he's getting ready.
I think it's a learning experience to have an escape box type of thing, you know, with things in it, you know, clean underwear and stuff.
A plan to be better prepared, something that's becoming more important for Canadians and communities with every wildfire season. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
21 horses and 2 donkeys still haven't returned to Yellowknife's North Country stables after being evacuated during the summer's wildfire crisis. But the owners say there is still hope for a return in the new year. Robert Holden explains.
North Country Stables, a hub of activity for the Yellowknife equestrian community, now sits empty. Those animals currently spread out at various ranches across Alberta. Some may not be coming home at all, after the owners took the opportunity to sell a few and put others in retirement stables due to old age. For Emily Hazenberg, horseback riding is a family affair.
So my parents have just been very involved with my riding. I started out at the barn when I was 5 years old. Having them not here has just really been very different. It's just always been a constant. Like, they've always been out there for as long as I can remember. And now that they're gone, it's just we're not really sure what to do.
Emily has owned a horse before. She knows how hard it can be to own them in the north. Tom Peach and his wife Pat Dartnell are the owners of the stables and the horses that live there. Peach says factors like cold weather, transportation issues, and hay availability stand in the way of the horses returning home. But a spring return is in the works.
There are lots of people missing them here, and me too. But that's what's happened now, so let's be patient. You know, nothing's really going to happen now, and possibly in spring we'll bring some.
In the meantime, the Aurora Horse Association is attempting to organize a riding camp in Alberta for summer 2024. The association says it's attempting to keep equestrian sports alive in the north. Robert Holden, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A global supply problem is worrying diabetes patients being treated with the drug Ozempic, and it's being felt here in the north. Patients who need the drug in the NWT, for example, are being put on wait lists as supply can't keep up with demand. The suspicion is that the shortage is rooted in the drug being used for weight loss. The CBC's Avantika Anand has that story.
Carl Drodge uses Ozempic to treat his type 2 diabetes. Recently, when he went to his pharmacy,
there's nothing available, no Ozempic available. And I started figuring, okay, what am I going to do now? So I put calls into my pharmacy and my doctor and everything else.
Drodge says he's tried every pharmacy in town, only to leave empty-handed every time.
I'm very concerned. I won't say I'm not freaked out by it at this point, but definitely very concerned, which is why I'm trying to get answers.
Luckily, he has enough of an alternate medication to tide him over. But for some other diabetes patients, this shortage could mean life or death.
This is a life-changing drug, and I was reticent to go on it, but then once I got on it, it's like, really? Okay, so the one med that really works good for me now, I can't get it. Why?
This is a day in my life / what I eat in a day on Ozempic, also known as...
Some doctors are blaming TikTok. Videos like this promoting Ozempic as a miracle drug for weight loss.
Well, we know that somewhere between 25 and 50% of prescriptions for Ozempic are probably being used for weight loss.
People are also turning to various online pharmacies to get their Ozempic. All that demand causing intermittent shortages of the drug. In a statement, the manufacturer of Ozempic apologized to patients and healthcare professionals for the shortage, saying, quote, Ozempic is not marketed as a weight loss treatment. Ozempic is not approved for chronic weight management. And that its global production is operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to address patient needs. Health Canada says the shortage is expected to persist till at least the end of March next year. Avantika Anand, CBC News, Ottawa.
Pond Inlet Nunavut will soon have a shelter specifically for women and children. It's a first for the community. The 5-bedroom shelter will be open 24 hours a day starting on Monday. The hamlet's senior administrative officer says up until now, women fleeing violence didn't have much choice about where to go.
They really had no options unless they had family where they could go. This is great for the community. Like the feedback from the community to have this building situated in Pond is great.
There's lots of change happening right now in Pond Inlet. A community wellness center had its grand opening this week, and both the shelter and the center are run by Hamlet staff. Stockley says a fitness center is also set to open in the hamlet next year. Hundreds of people gathered in Nova Scotia this week to talk about blending Indigenous and Western knowledge. It's called two-eye seeing, being able to see from both perspectives. And for Wuntakwitchin elder Stan Najutli, it's got a lot of potential.
You can you do your curriculum and have tradition and culture, and it could evolve into basically a combination of traditional teaching plus the European education system or Canadian education system working in combination. Together, I think that for the Yukon, and I think Yukon is the place to do it. And you can either do it or you don't do it.
He hopes one day the kinds of on-the-land programs that have flourished in the Yukon will be found all across Canada. And he says it could help strengthen efforts for reconciliation and Indigenous rights. A new after-school program in Yellowknife offers a safe space for Indigenous students to create art and express themselves. It's for students from grades 5 to 8. Taylor Holmes has the details.
Students at Mildred Hall School make collages as part of this new arts program. The Arctic Rose Foundation first launched the Messy Book program in Rankin Inlet in 2018. This year, the organization partnered with the YK1 School Division to bring it to a bigger community for the first time. 4 days a week, students can come out to cultural activities. There, they can express themselves through a wealth of creative mediums with the help of Indigenous artists.
It was really great to work with my sister, who's a visual artist this year, because we've kind of done a dual project on self-reflection and something that's really important to them. So yeah, this week we brainstormed ideas and did a little bit of songwriting while they worked on their vision boards and self-portraits. And they wrote a great song. So we're just in the process of, I brought my recording equipment in and we're going to record the kids singing the song.
Gilday says it's important that students have a space where they feel safe and can express themselves through art. She says the free art program provides students an emotional outlet and an opportunity to flourish. The program also trains and hires high school students to work as mentors to younger students. Jane Rudolph is the program organizer in Yellowknife. She says the Messy Book program not only provides students an opportunity to express themselves through art, but also empowers mentors or calm workers in the program and provides them with valuable life skills.
Some of them can't be articulated, right? They're a way that children and youth carry themselves. They're a confidence, a feeling. But with our comm workers, particularly with the high school students, you know, that they're provided that opportunity to generate those skills within themselves, to realize what they have, to have some income. They're just afforded a lot of different opportunities, and we see that. We see the benefits of that, number one, when they come back the next year because they have that confidence and want to do it again, but also in what they choose to do in staying in school, completing their education and moving on.
While Yellowknife is the latest community to have this program, its organizers hope to expand it even more in the future. Taylor Holmes, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A Whitehorse alpine skier is gearing up to compete in a major international race. He will be the first to represent his club at this level. CBC's Maria Tobin caught up with him at the slopes.
A need for speed and a love for hearing wind pass through a helmet. Two things that set fire to the soul of this 16-year-old skier. Mackenzie Jenner, better known as Mac, has built a new height for Alpine Yukon.
I placed 7th in the ski cross, and that led me to an invite to the Youth Olympics ski cross trials. So it's going good, pretty good right now.
On top of qualifying for the Youth Olympics, Jenner is preparing for his first Fédération Internationale de Ski race this weekend. He is Alpine Yukon's first athlete to reach this high level. something his coach says is inspiring to young skiers.
Mac taking that leap and being the first guy to jump out in front of it, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for all our younger athletes to know it's achievable and the program can get that skier to that level.
Gliding down his hometown hills at Mount Sema, Jenner says his main goal this weekend isn't to make the podium.
I'm not going for podium or any of that. I just want to finish. I just want to have a nice clean run, both runs.
More international races and the Olympics are at the front of Jenner's mind. But when asked how his achievements and goals make him feel, he says one thing.
Time to figure it out, really.
This weekend's race is set to kick off at 11:15 Saturday morning here at Mount Sema. It's a first FIS race for Jenner, but it's not going to be the last. Maria Tobin, CBC News, Whitehorse.
140 Canadian athletes are getting ready to compete at the Para-Pan Am Games in Chile, including the men's and women's wheelchair basketball teams. Both teams will hit the court tomorrow as the group stage gets underway. But first, the athletes will be attending the opening ceremony tonight in Santiago. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a great weekend.
You're not a millennial.
Yeah, well, Dr. Dre's not a doctor. I feel like such an imposter.
You need money to survive. He had something to hide.
Try typing with your thumbs.
What do you call it?
It's called a BlackBerry.
Huh. We call them crackberries.
There's a serial killer on the loose.
2 attacks in a week.
Go on. Everybody's got something to hide.
We're not gonna be here forever, right? Makes me want to make some changes.
Your family can't take much more.
Think you're a better driver when you're high? Think again. No alcohol, no drugs, no victims. A message from Mad Canada.
I want my children home where they should be.
You'll go to jail if you don't sign.
There's gonna come a time you'll feel the darkness. You don't let them win.
I understand that you're struggling emotionally.
Sure you want to do this?
I mean, it's research, right? You need to stop asking me for things I can't give you. You've done it my whole life.
We have an incredible show lined up for you tonight.
Wow!